Hey guys, welcome to this week's track guide at Nords, or the Green Hell, as some people like to call it. Massive track, as everybody knows. In the Skippy, it's about an 8-minute lap, or just over an 8-minute lap. If you're lucky this week, we may see some 7:59s, or just under the 8-minute mark as well. So the track guide this week, guys, is going to be a little bit different. I'm not going to go into massive details on every single corner, otherwise this track guide is going to end up at about 3 hours long. It's already going to be pretty long anyway, I think, so go get a coffee and we'll get into it. Just before we do, guys, if this video helps you out, please remember to hit the like button just below the video. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please remember to scroll down, hit the subscribe button as well. We are flying towards that 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. So if we could hit that in the next couple of weeks, that would be amazing. If you guys need any more help or any more advice or any more tips after this video, I do stream 5 days a week over on Twitch. There's a link here and there's a link in the description as well. Or obviously you could just post a comment below, down below this video too. Okay, weather this week, guys. The track is currently 20 degrees and the date and time is set to what the official sessions are going to be set to next week. Onto the setup. Pretty much the same setup as we always use. 54% brake bias, minimum tyre pressures, 8 on the anti-roll bar, 7.9 litres of fuel for qualifying, 11.8 litres of fuel for the race. SPO this week. This lap I've done was done on a +2, but as you see when we get into the guide, I have got it on the hot lap. I have got a little bit of a bent wing, which probably cost me a couple of tenths or so. I imagine a couple of people this week are going to be on the monster truck setup on the -4. I said two is probably a little bit low, but as you guys know by now, I like to have the cars low to the ground as I could possibly get it. Again, the setup may change as the week goes on, depending on how the races are like. So keep an eye on the Discord and the description, the setups for that. Onto the guide then. The lap I'm going to show you this week, guys, is an 8-minute 5-second .593. There's at least another probably 6 seconds to be found on this track. I did make a bunch of mistakes and I'll point them out as we go around. And if you can see here, I got this little bit of a bent front wing from previous laps as well. So that probably cost me a few tenths, so probably like a second over the course of a lap this size. Okay, as we cross the start-finish line, coming up towards turn 1. Just a quick note, guys, I will put the turn corners down in the description, so if you want to jump to a certain corner, feel free to do so. There's also a hot lap at the end of the lap if you want to watch that. Okay, cars on the left-hand side of the track from the previous corners, we cross the start-finish line here. Coming up towards turn 1, I'm going to very quickly forget what turn number we're on, I can tell you that. Bring the car to the right-hand side. You want to be as far over to the right-hand side as you could possibly be, avoiding this barrier here. You can see how close I actually get to it. Moving the car right over to the right. We're going down into second gear as we turn in. One thing about this corner, you can really get back on the power early, as you can see, a little bit blip of the throttle. Back on the power early because it's quite a wide exit. And you can use all of this outside track here to get a good drive down this straight. All of the curb as well. If you're on a low or a high SPO, if the car's low, just avoid. You've got to be careful going around here the curbs. Up in the fifth gear here. This corner here is flat out on warm tyres, as you can see. On cold tyres, it is going to be a little bit of a lift through there. Just be careful of that. Left hand side of the track, bring it to the right hand side. We're going to start to turn in. We're going to, as we brake, we're going to drop it to 4th gear. Hit this little bit of an apex on the left hand side here. And then as the car straightens up, we're going to drop it again down into 3rd gear. As you can see, I'm a little bit off the apex there, but this first bit of section I'm rather quick through. This first bit of section is probably my best bit of section on the track. On the next lap after this, I actually went through here 3 tenths quicker. So just bear in mind of there probably won't be a lot of difference in these times, but just so you guys know. Okay, down to whatever corner this is. I've forgotten what turn number it is already. Up in the 4th gear. apex left, and then we're going to come back to the right hand side. We're going to drop it down into third, using a bit of a curve there. Again, if you're using the monster truck setup, you can use all the curve you want there, but be careful if you're using my setup. Left hand side of the track, let the car drift to the right hand side. It's got a nice flow about it, Nords has. I find Nords has got a better flow than, for example, VIR. I prefer Nords to VIR than where we were last week. Got a nice flow. One corner flows into the next. Okay. Turning for this corner, it's really important to get back on the power early here because it's quite a long straight, and if you mess this corner up, you will lose a lot of time down through the next section. As you can see, we're already back at 100% throttle here as we go through the corner. Just be a bit careful. This little bit of a crest over here. If we go to the cockpit, you see this little bit of a crest. You've got to know where this curve is. You've got to turn to the right. It can catch you out a little bit because this. You look at this barrier here, but the curb is actually out here. So just be a little bit careful. It takes a couple of laps of practice to learn where the curb is. But you can actually, as you can see, I do touch it a little bit. But we are back. But the main point being, back to 100% throttle as early as you can. Okay, this section. Up in the 4th gear, up in the 5th. Bring it to the right hand side. Left hand side of the track. These next 2 corners are going to be flat out. 100% throttle on warm tyres. On cold tyres, there will again be a little bit of a lift through there. So bear that in mind. But definitely on the 3rd lap of the race, that corner is going to be flat out. Okay, right hand side of the track. Now this corner is a little bit tricky. I think I do lift a little bit through here. Yeah, as you can see, I lift a little bit because as you go over the top of this crest here, the car tends to get a little bit loose. And especially going at this speed, you can very easily lose the car. So it's about safety. You can take this corner flat out. But to be safe, I've lifted through here just for safety reasons more than not. Okay, this is the first hard braking zone, I would say, of the track. Coming up here, see we're gonna hit the brakes about here. I'm looking at these. What I'm doing, I'm looking at these shadows on the floor, and from memory and practicing this track, I know I'm braking at this sort of shadow here. I go to the cockpit. As we come up to it, I'm looking at where the tarmac changes, and then as we go past it, I'm looking at these. In particular, this one big shadow across the track. And I'm just knowing where to brake. Hard braking zone, 75% there. We're going from 5th gear all the way down to 2nd. And we're just going to leave the throttle the accelerator, round this corner, keep it tight to the inside, and then when you feel comfortable, back to 100%, let it drift to the right hand side again. On this next section is all flat out. Hit the left hand side, hit the right hand side, hit the left hand side again. Hit the right hand side, hit the left hand side. All flat out, 5th gear. Coming up towards this corner. This corner is a bit tricky. It's a little lift through here, as you'll see in a minute. Right car on the right hand side of the track. Turn the car in, as you can see I lift through here. You can really use more curve. You can use all of this curve here. It just gets, best word for it, dodgy at best. Especially coming into this next braking zone, because as we go past it, we're pretty much immediately on the brakes and down to 3rd gear. Again, if you don't do this, if you mess up this little bit of a corner here, trying to keep your speed up, you will spin the car, or you will. It's very hard to control the car into this braking zone because you're not braking in a straight line. You can see I wait here until the car is sort of straight, even though it's still turning to the left a little bit. Again on the brakes and down the 3rd gear. Inside of this corner, back on the throttle for a split second, back to 100%, and then off the throttle, down in the 2nd gear. let the car drift out to the right hand side. You really want to open up this corner. Now if I'm correct in remembering, I do mess this corner up. You want to be in second, and you want to hit this little bit of curb here, but you want to keep the car to the left hand side. You want to be going slower through this corner than you think you can go. As you can see, I'm a bit wide here. I would really like to be another half a car's length on this left hand side here. To really open up this next corner. I do take it flat out here, but as you can see, I take a lot of curb. And at this point, my car is rubbing along the ground. You don't particularly want to be using this much curb, if any at all. You want these tires on this red and black strip here. But I had to use this much curb because of my entry to the corner here. So just bear in mind, guys, slower through this corner before. Keep the car to the left-hand side. And then this right-hand corner is flat out in second gear. And you won't need to use all this curb out here. Okay, as we carry on up in the third gear. Some nice straights down here. Up in the fourth. Up in the fifth. I'm going to keep the car, as you can see, most people will be on this left-hand side. I keep the car to the right-hand side of the track here. Just to open up this next corner. See. Again, 50% lift through here. Nice and easy. Carrying loads of speed through there. It's really important that you really do get on this right-hand side of the track here to really open up this corner. Okay. Into the braking zone. There's no thing about Nords. There's not really any brake markers. I'm just doing it from memory and where I feel comfortable braking. But there's not many brake markers that I can say, yeah, I'm using this tree here, or yeah, I'm using this sign, or the 200-meter board or something. Okay, down to here, we're hitting the brakes. We're going down to third gear. Turning the car in. It's really a swooper, this corner, if you like. Good word for it. Back to 100% throttle. Avoiding this curve on the right-hand side. Let the car come back to the left. We're going to very briefly go up to fourth gear before we get back on the brakes again and go down to second. Keep tight to this corner all the way around. A very late apex, so you want to be hitting this apex here. And let the car drift up back out to the left again. Just again, be careful of this curve on the left-hand side. It can damage the car or can scrape the bottom of the car. Okay, we're going to go up to fourth gear. A little tiny bit of a lift through here. You can take this corner flat out. I just didn't take this corner particularly well on this lap. But it is flat out. As you can see, I'm off the curb there. Fourth gear. Towards this very fast triple right-hander, I think it is. There's not really any brakes needed. Again, I'm one of those people just like to tap the brakes to sort of turn the car into the corner. Little lift, and you're going to feather the throttle all the way through. Some people like to come out here and then bring the car back in again. Personally, I like to keep the car tight through these three corners. Okay, down to arguably the slowest corner on the track. This left-hand side. We're going to be in fourth gear. We're already on the brakes. We're going to go down the third gear here. As we go around this corner, little blip of the throttle, and then we're going to go down into first gear. So, fourth gear, on the brakes and down into third. Turn the car in, right-hand side. As we straighten the car up here, down in the second and down into first. What am I doing? Left-hand side. Let the car drift out. You're in first gear and then bring the car back in for this really late apex. So I'm really back to 100% throttle as early as I can be. Avoiding this curb on the right hand side. But you really need this. It's quite a tricky corner. It's going to take you a lot of laps. Well, this whole track is going to take you a lot of laps of practice to get used to. Right hand side. Down into first gear and let the car just turn itself in. It's quite a nice flowing corner when you get it right. You just need to practice it to get it right in the first place. Up in the second, up in the third. Up into fourth. The next corner's got a nice brake marker. Keep it to the right-hand side of the track. We're braking on this bit of concrete here. As we come towards it, hit the concrete, brake, down the third gear. Again, the corner looks tighter than it is, but it's got quite a wide exit, so you can use all this on the right-hand side. Bring the car back to the left-hand side. This is another really important corner to get right, but you've got really a lot of camber on the inside of this corner, so try to use it all. Really get on the inside of the corner, and then you can really get a good drive out of this corner using all the track on this left-hand side. And then we're on the first half of the uphill stretch. Fifth gear, left-hand side. Coming towards this next corner. Now this corner always catches me out. I always go, not always obviously, but I do mostly go too fast in this corner. We're going to come towards it. We're going to hit the brakes. We're going to go from fifth down to third. And as you can see, I do mess the corner up because I get back on the power. And then you can see this little bit of correction to the left because I turned in slightly too early. So I'm turning in. Little bit of correction to the left before then turned back to the right. Luckily, I didn't lose too much time. Again, it's a really important corner. You really got to not go too fast through there because I've ended up in this barrier here multiple times. So just be a little bit careful about that. And we're on to this uphill straight. The first of the, well, you can't really call it a straight because it bends around the place, but it is flat out all the way up this hill. There is a little bit to worry about though, as we get about 2/3 of the way up. Just take the shortest line possible all the way around here. Fifth gear. As we turn around to the right. And then back to the left. Now as we come around this next corner, I'm going to hit the clutch and I'm going to drop it to fourth. As you can see there. You want to stay in fourth gear, so you want to go from fifth down into fourth. You don't want to take your foot off the accelerator. You just want to tap the clutch to change the gear down into fourth. And then keep the car in fourth gear, so it keeps it in that power band. Otherwise, the Skippy isn't powerful enough to get up this hill and you will start losing speed. So, fourth gear, the car will be screaming at you at this point to change up into fifth, but just keep it in fourth. Brake marker here, I'm looking at this bit of curb, so as this bit of curb comes out, this is where we're braking. We're going from fourth all the way down into second gear. Coming off the brakes slowly. Inside of this corner all the way around and back to 100% throttle. I'm probably a little wide going through here. I'd like to be a little bit tighter, but on this occasion it didn't cost me any time. And up towards the famous Carousel. Third gear, I think I keep it in third gear here. Sometimes I go up into fourth gear, sometimes I keep it in third. Brake marker for this corner, again, is this little bump. Sticky out bit of the red and white curb here. So as we hit that, we're going to be on the brakes and we're going to be down into second gear. Very careful on the entry. You want to sort of enter the carousel at this sort of angle, and you want to try and keep as much speed up as you can possibly do all the way around. You don't want to be stuck out here because you will lose absolutely bags of time. It's quite tricky to do. The car does bump and roll all the way around it. So just be a little bit careful as you go all the way around. Second gear, about halfway through the corner, as you can see, I'm back to 100% throttle again. As we come off, you can exit the carousel towards this curve from second back up to third. Flat out on this bit, we're going to stay in fourth gear. Coming up towards this next marker. Going to turn in through this first bit of curve in fourth. Back to 100% throttle and then down into third gear. To get the rotation through the next bit of corner. Little bit of curve used on the left hand side. And then before we immediately tap the brakes, lift off the throttle, down into third gear to take this corner on the right. Again, that corner on the right, you can. I probably lost some time through. As you can see, you can use all this track on this left hand side here. It's a very difficult corner to get right though, and it's just one of the corners we kind of messed up on this particular lap. If you look at it, really turn in, get back on the power, and then use all this track on the left. Okay, up in the 4th gear as we carry on. Right hand side, left hand side. We're going to be on the brakes here. A little blip of the throttle again. I'm going to use some curb here. And then you really need to abuse this curb on the right hand side. I probably didn't abuse it enough. It's quite hard to get the car back over onto the right hand side. But you will see from the cockpit, if I show you the cockpit a minute. So we're in 4th gear, coming towards this corner. Keep it tight. Use this little bit of a curb on the left hand side, and then you want to turn the car. I probably turned the car in left a tad late here. Turn the car in right, really abuse this curb, and you're already back at 100% throttle. Tricky corner to get right. Again, will take you laps to get used to, guys. And this whole track is going to take a lot of getting used to. It's massive. Okay, still in 4th gear. Coming towards this corner, we're going to hit the brakes very briefly, dropping into 3rd. Keep the car tight, let it drift to the right hand side, then bring it back to the left hand side again. As you can see where the curb drops off here is where you want to be mounting this curb. As you can see coming through here, I'm just missing it. Mounting this curb briefly. And then on the brakes, right hand side. Don't want to touch that curb because it can upset the car and really throw you out into this. I think the note about this corner, guys, is a lot of people go really wide in this corner. Probably why there's a bit of grass over here. Just be a little bit careful, go a little bit slower if you need to. And you definitely don't want to be ending up in the barrier out here. As you can see, I'm using all the curb I can possibly use here. Stay on this curb, 4th gear, drop it to 3rd. Again, this is another one of these corners. You've got to be careful on the exit because the car can run wide. Right, there's all this curb out here. You don't particularly want to be using it though. Up into 4th gear again, guys. Very briefly before we're back down into 3rd. Turning the car in. Again, as the previous 2 corners, the car can really run wide to the right hand side here. Just to be a little bit careful. Last season of this track, this corner caught me out a few times. And this is one of the corners you can get a slowdown on. You can see I'm using all of this curb here. If you use any more of this curb, if you're out here, if your wheels are out here, you get off track, this corner will give you a slowdown. And I think it's about 2 seconds, and you will lose a lot of time. A lot of time down the next sector because of it. Okay, this next sector is nice. 3rd gear, 4th gear even. Left hand side, right hand side, left hand side. 5th gear, we're going to drop it to 4th. Really fast double right hander. Careful on this, but you want to keep it to the right hand side of the track to get round this left hand hander here flat out. You want to see that again. Coming towards it, 5th gear. Drop into 4th. Again, I'm a little bit wide here, but that's okay. It's a really fast right hander. Bring it back in. Touching the apex there. Keeping the car. You don't want to be out. If you're out here, you're going to mess up this next corner and you're going to be in this right hand side wall. So at the very most, you want to be in the middle of the track here. And then this next corner is easily flat out. As I said, you don't want to mess up the previous corner, otherwise you're going to be in this barrier here. I know, I've done it. 4th gear, 5th gear, left hand side, right hand side, all this is flat out. Left hand side again, back over to the right hand side, left hand side. As you see, there's a lot of this in Nords. Still flat out, 5th gear. As we hit the change in tarmac here, we're going to drop it to 4th. A little bit of the throttle, get around here, keeping the car to the right hand side of the track. And then dropping it to 3rd gear. Again, keeping up as much momentum through this corner as I possibly can. It's a little bit of a mess up. I would normally like to be a lot tighter through this corner, so this is where you can find more time. And again, you can really use all this curb out on this right hand side if you need to. Second little mini carousel. Third gear. The car gets really bumpy through here. You can see the car bumping around and jumping around all over the place. Just be a little bit careful. You can really carry a lot of speed through here, but it really does unsettle the car. If you mess it up, then you're in that right-hand side of the wall. Here, be a little bit careful. Car does get a little bit unsettled. Up in the fourth gear, the final couple of corners, really important to get a good drive down the next straight. This first one, little bit of a lift. Down to about 50% very briefly. Right hand side. Keeping the car as tight to this inside as you can. Then up in the fifth gear. And then we're down the main straight. Now thing to notice, guys, if you're battling with someone down this main straight, if you're attacking somebody, let's stop it here a second. If you're attacking somebody, you can draft them early, and they will redraft you back again by the time you get to the end. So you want to sit behind them until about this point. So you see where this track changes here, where the start of the hill starts to rise up here. So if I was attacking someone, there would be a car in front of me here. We'd be going down here, and I'd probably be lifting off the throttle, and then I would attack at this point. So as we start going up the hill is the point at which you want to attack the car in front of you. At this point, you should be able to draft the car in front, and then by the time you get to this bridge, you will either be pretty much ahead of them, or very much have the better advantage going through this this left hand and then right hand, left hand, right, which is flat out. Left hand, right hand. Just another bit to note, guys, that's if you're attacking. If you're defending going down this straight, you haven't got very many options. You either got to hope the guy behind you goes early so you can redraft them back, or at the start of the straight you can lift off yourself and try and force them to overtake you early so you can redraft them back. Bit of cat and mouse, guys, just play it as it happens. What's interesting though, there can be plenty of carnage down into these S-bends. I know it was last season. They are flat out when you're on your own. They're not quite so flat out when you've got a car next to you, so just be mindful of that. As we come up towards this, as we get towards the end of the graffiti, we're going to go down into fourth gear. And then as we get around the corner, we're going to go down the third and down the second. Again, I don't use very much curb here, but you can do if you really want to. You probably gain some time through it. Back on the power, we're going to stay in second gear, left hand side, keeping the car on the left hand side of the track. Tap the brakes briefly, turn the car in, just missing this inside barrier. And across the start finish line. So, there we have it, guys. There's your track guide for this week. I've been recording this bit of the guide now for 26 minutes, so not as long as I thought it was going to be, but I did go through a couple of corners rather quickly, and I wouldn't normally go into the I didn't go into the normal level of detail that I normally would. So if you're struggling on a corner, guys, or you want some more advice, please drop a comment down below the video. Other than that, guys, happy racing this week. Good luck to you all, and I will catch you next week.
95.59.